This is a quick refresher on how to use apostrophes. Now, apostrophes are used for two reasons. One is to show contraction, to show that a letter's been missed out, and the other reason is to show possession. We're going to look at contraction first. Okay, so generally, if you transfer any of these words into kind of their abbreviated versions, their shortened versions, you then get the need to use an apostrophe. So cannot becomes can't. Apostrophe here showing the missing N and O. Should not becomes shan't. Should have becomes should have. And this is not of, okay? There is no should of. You always write it should have, and therefore it changes to should have. Over the years, that kind of sound, because it sounds like that, is often kind of miswritten or incorrectly written as of. But really, any time you're writing, write should have or should have. Will not, won't. Let us is generally, if you write let's, as in let's go out, it still needs an apostrophe because it's the shortened form of let us. So let's still needs the apostrophe. And then if you're saying someone is and you're changing it to someone's, so someone's there, it's still the shortened version of someone is. So you still need it like that. It's the same as if you use somebody's first name. So if you say John is, and then you change it to John's going out, the apostrophe there is to show that it's short for John is. Okay, this one can be a bit confusing, right, because actually it gets messed up, it gets mixed up with the ones apostrophes for possession that we're going to look at in a moment. Okay, so if you have apostrophes for possession, it generally shows that again you've kind of done something to use a shorthand way of saying something. So generally, if you're talking about something owning something else, the long way of doing it is to use the word of. So if you want to talk about a dog who owns a bowl, you could say the bowl of the dog. Now what we tend to do is we tend to kind of flick the word order around and say the dog's bowl, and in this example the apostrophe goes there. And that's because when you do it the long way round, you can see how many dogs are there. Here there is one dog that's doing the owning of the bowl. But when you move to this abbreviated version, this shorthand where you've missed out the of, actually you've got no way of telling whether that's one dog or two dogs or a million dogs unless you put the apostrophe in. And we use the apostrophe to show how many things are doing the owning. So let me go through that again. If you say the bowl of the dog becomes the dog's bowl with apostrophe there, take the dog's bowl, know you've got one dog, and turn it round again, the bowl of the dog. I stop speaking there, the bowl of the dog, therefore that's where the apostrophe goes. If in the second example you want to say the bowl of the dogs, when you turn it round, it's still the dog's bowl, but because it's the bowl of the dogs, you stop speaking there, so the apostrophe goes after the S. So you can do that with any example. If you want to check where the apostrophe goes, turn it round, and put the apostrophe where you stop talking. So if you say the children's playground, it's actually the playground of the children. I've stopped after the N, so that's where the apostrophe goes. If you want to say the lion's dinner, and we're thinking of 3 lions, you say the dinner of the lions. You stop there, the apostrophe goes there. So how does this impact on inspector calls? Well, the problem is Mr. Burling can own some things. He can own an attitude. So Mr. Burling's attitude is the attitude of Mr. Burling. Goes in there. If you start putting the apostrophe after the S, it would be the attitude of Mr. Burling's, and that's not his name, and there's not more than one of him. Likewise, if Mrs. Burling is owning something, you say Mrs. Burling's views. It's the views of Mrs. Burling, so you'd put the apostrophe after the G. If you talk about the Burling's house, you're actually talking about more than one Burling there doing the owning, because it's the house of the Burlings, which means that the apostrophe goes after the S. What you don't do is you don't just put an apostrophe unless there's any owning happening. So for example, if you want to say the inspector wants to demonstrate to the Burlings that their views are wrong. Okay, here they're not actually doing any owning there, and you're talking about more than one of them, so that's just a straightforward plural, and it doesn't need any apostrophe. It's just more than one Burling. Okay. So have a quick look at these. Okay. So, Mr. Burling's ideas are the ideas of Mr. Burling. The Burling's views are the views of the Burlings. Eva is badly treated by the Burlings. That's just a plural. There's no apostrophe needed. Eva suffers as a result of the Burlings' bad behaviour. That's the bad behaviour of the Burlings. Apostrophe needed. If you've listened to this video all the way through, then I want you to go on to the last This trick works with all of your writing. So you need to make sure that you're actively checking to see, have you included apostrophes, or if you have included them, have you included them correctly? So if you think about the poet's views, and there's only one poet, the views of the poet. If you think about the poet's views, and you're comparing, because there's more than one poet, the views of the poets. If you're thinking about Shakespeare and you're looking at Shakespeare's ideas, because it's the ideas of Shakespeare. Now use the ideas here to help you answer the questions. The answer that you need for the symbol question is crescent. Hopefully that works. I look forward to reading correct apostrophes in all of your work from now on.